237 is a Jumperscape audio production. You've entered a place of fear and dread. Welcome to Room 237.
Hello, and once again, welcome into Room 237 as we get back into Chucky month. It's me, James, again.
And it's me, Ashton.
Ashton's feeling a little under the weather. She's being very brave about it, though.
Thank you.
So,
Yellow pollen is so stupid.
if you can't understand all of her vowels, that's why.
I'm a little stuffed up. Oh,
We also have a special guest with us today, and that's Austin's cat.
would you like to say something?
She's a little shy.
She would in fact like to rub her head against the microphone though.
So yeah, if you hear any ominous rumbling coming from clearly a microphone getting banged around, that's the cat
It's the
saying
cat.
hello.
Saying hi.
But we move on this week to Child's Play 2, which came out in 1990, and it was directed by John LaFia, if I'm not mistaken. And full stop, this is probably my favorite in the franchise, if I had to pick. I think it's like the perfect blend of Chucky being a goofball and still having that serious tone that is sorely lacking in a lot of what's to come. So this will probably be the last episode that is mostly praise from me. Even though I honestly do still love all of these movies, this is probably the last one that was like, in my brain, objectively a good movie. A good fun romp, if you will. But kind of a brief little synopsis. Basically, after Child's Play 1, the toy company, it's called Play Pals, wants to put down all the rumors that there was actually something wrong with Andy's good guy doll, because it got in all the tabloids that, you know, a boy's good guy doll came to life and tried to kill him, and that he was Charles Lee Ray. So they get their hands on the doll and they put him back together. Why putting a doll back together would like prove anything?
Well, they did say, because the rumor going around was that someone at the factory had replaced the cassette like box with lines that said, "My name's Chucky.
And I'm gonna kill you, you know, like
I'm really Charles Lee Ray, and I'm gonna kill you." So they were taking it apart and putting it back together to prove like there's nothing wrong with this doll.
Well, yeah, I was more saying like if you're the public, like why would you take their word for it? Because like if you genuinely believed in the tabloid, you'd probably be like, oh, they're just covering it up. Like,
I mean, yeah, I agree. I just, I feel like the company was sort of on the right page,
Yeah.
trying to do something about it.
So Chucky is put back together and he's back and he's off to find Andy, and then hijinks ensue. So how do you feel about the second one compared to the first one?
Compared to the first,
Because that's all the reference level you have
Yeah.
at the moment.
well, this is my second watch of this movie. And the door is closed. The cat is
You give your opinions. I'll go let the cat back
Okay.
upstairs.
Sorry, guys. The cat is very distracting. Okay. Yeah, this is my second time watching this movie. I feel like I like that it keeps the sort of serious tone while allowing Chucky to be more of a character. I feel like in the first one, Chucky gets a lot less time to be Chucky, whereas he gets to just be Chucky this whole movie. And it's not like super silly yet either.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling on it, because like this movie has the benefit of like not having to keep him a mystery, so like you see him moving in like the first 15 minutes and talking and stuff.
Right.
You don't have to wait till halfway through the movie for that to happen.
Yeah.
And he has a lot more screen time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He's not quite on main character status yet. We're fast approaching, but you know, it is just really like the like perfect balance between the two like versions of the character, where, and the thing is, he remains very mean-spirited. He's always mean-spirited, but like he kind of gets a little too goofy later on, to where it's like it's almost a little endearing.
Oh boy.
Because it's like almost like edgelord status. He's still terrible, obviously, but
Edgelord.
but there's something about the performance of Brad Dourif and especially the look of Chucky in this movie.
Yeah.
Because this is probably his best like overall look. And I honestly think part of that is it's the animatronics are just like at just the right level of like advancement, to where, you know, the jankiness kind of adds to the doll like appearance.
Yeah.
While at the same time, like, because that's the thing, it's like the most believable of a animatronic I think that you get in these movies, which is really weird considering it's only the second one.
Yeah, I did notice specifically the animatronic in this one, because there's a lot of scenes where he walks on his own and it's fully the animatronic version of Chucky. Like that is not some stunt double and they blown up version of the set. That is very clearly the animatronic, and it is pretty impressive, I think.
I think the only shot I picked out that I think was someone in a costume was that it was just his silhouette running in the background in the basement.
And that looked like just like a kid running or something. That's
Right.
the only time I caught something like that too, but
And it wasn't even because I was like, well, that's obviously too big, you know. It was more just, well, the movement was too real.
yeah, like that was obviously a child, but I feel like that just, especially in that one scene, like adds to it.
No, it does.
This movie also just like randomly picks up rapid pace.
No, yeah, this movie kind of just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. It really has great pacing. Like, it doesn't really slow down too much.
No, I just feel like the end just all comes at you so fast.
I know. I mean, when you think about it, this whole movie is 3 days and 2 nights.
Yeah, isn't that insane?
And most of the movie is on that last day.
Yeah.
I sometimes I never really grasp the timeline of movies. My brain for some reason just fills in like, oh, this has been like 2 weeks of time in these people's lives, but a lot of movies are just like literally only a couple hours of someone's life or a couple days. And
yeah, it's so weird.
But not much to say like in this little spoiler-free section at the beginning, except if you're watching along with us for Chucky month, please go watch this one. It'll be fun, and if you guys just keep coming along with us for each one of these movies, because it's gonna get divisive here very fast.
I feel like most definitely it will. This is the last Chucky movie I've seen,
and I'm excited for you to continue your journey.
I'm very excited. I hope the next one we watch, I am not being attacked by my own body.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Someone tell my antibodies that pollen is not gonna hurt me.
Do I have to tell each one individually?
That might take a while.
That might take the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But without further ado, I would have to give this movie, I'm gonna have to give it 9 hanging fills out of 10.
God. I'm gonna give it a solid 8 hanging fills out of 10.
That's pretty fair.
Just because
That's what you gave the last. That's what you gave Child's Play 1 as well, right?
I feel like probably.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not.
They're pretty much on equal footing in my brain. I just like this movie slightly more.
I think that's how I feel like. They're pretty much equal footing for me. And this one is very entertaining, but it's not like these aren't my favorite horror movies, so I don't want to give it a perfect score.
Fair.
Like, you know.
Yeah. But without further ado, I mean, I kind of started, half of my plot synopsis was the beginning of the movie. So the movie opens up like with
So gross.
It's so fun.
It's so gross.
With them scooping the eyeball out of the burned up Chucky head.
Oh my god. Cuz you still get that's what I liked that it brought from the original. You still really get the sense of him becoming human.
Yeah, it's not
and that
as
he became human.
You can still see it in that burned up doll head because they try to make it look as much like where he left off as
burnt
possible.
Human flesh.
Unfortunately, I feel like they did not do they ditched the progression of his appearance, which was one of my favorite things of the original movie.
Yeah, but like, and they like clean his teeth, and he's got a like human looking tongue. Oh, it's so gross. Like I've been choking on mucus all day, and I was like, I feel like I might throw up right now.
But they put him back together. We get the little exposition dump of like, so basically, Karen Barclay, she's in the loony bin. The two cops, they basically were like, doll? What doll? I don't know nothing about no doll. So they played the smart card of no one's gonna believe me. And Andy's in the foster system now.
Yeah, and he's going to get adopted by these two. They seem like nice people.
Phil and Joanne. Joanne seems nice. I think Phil's a little snobby.
Yeah, I feel like Joanne wants to have all the foster kids, and Phil's just kind of there.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a bad guy necessarily.
No, he's definitely not like a bad guy.
But he definitely doesn't have the patience for this.
No, and also I feel like they've kind of established like Joanne's gonna be good cop and he's gonna be bad cop.
Pretty much right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because they are watching Andy get in a therapy session, and it is fair to be apprehensive when you're taking in someone who was convinced his doll was on a murder spree and tried to kill him.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I want to mention about this scene is thank God for a real child psychiatrist. Like, I love that for Andy. He was like,
we didn't get that in Megan.
No. And the way he talks, the scene was so good because they're playing like a cart. They're playing Go Fish. And he's just like, did you have a nightmare again last night, Andy? And Andy like describes, the whole scenario with the Chucky doll. And he goes, wow, that's a terrible dream. I'm so sorry. I'm like, thank you.
And he's just like, it was. Because, I mean, yeah, I bet he did have a nightmare about the events that actually happened, because he essentially just describes what happened in the first. A lot of the beginning of Child's Play 2 is recapping Child's Play 1.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. So honestly, like this movie does kind of stand on its own if you wanted to.
The other thing I wanted to say too, they talk about Charles Lee Ray's murders in this scene as well when they're describing the stuff that's going on to the parents. In the first movie, did they say they're ritualistic murders? I don't think they said they were ritualistic murders.
I don't know. I think they probably just added that later.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I like that the voodoo was more of something that he just used to like
kind of had on the side.
Yeah. As like,
if it helps, it never really gets brought up again.
That's good.
But To be fair, I think the only allusion you can have to it is his knife in the first movie
Yeah.
is like clearly has like voodoo imagery on it and is probably sacrificial, at least in his
Yeah.
brain.
I just like to make sure our good friend Voodoo John, that was his name, right? John.
John,
Yeah. Voodoo
the
John
witch
is
doctor.
like, yeah, I want him on the good side.
And I think he is, because I don't think what if he wasn't just mad that Charles was a bad dude? He's just like, you're not supposed to use it on dolls, dude.
Right, like
Nature and shit. Like,
well, because if if the murders are ritualistic, like then John would have had to tell him how to do ritualistic murders, and I don't like that. John is a good guy in my brain, okay? You're not gonna taint my image of John.
well, I'm not a voodoo expert, but it is a like, oh god, what's the word? What's the word? I'm blanking. Multiple gods. What's the word?
Oh, polytheism?
Yeah, it's a polytheistic like religion, right?
I think maybe. I think it's more ancestral based.
But I guess in this fiction, I'm thinking Damballa is just one of many deities, and that's the one that he worships, and is the evil one essentially.
Yeah. I definitely don't know enough about voodoo to
Me
really
neither.
comment on it.
I guess speaking strictly on the movies, like version of it, that's probably the case. Is just Damballa requires ritualistic sacrifice.
Yeah. That might be it.
But so they do take him in, and there's some great visual foreshadowing when they almost get wrecked by a Play Pal toys truck on the way home, and it just drives by, and like the good guy is just waving at Andy through the window.
Ugh. Poor Andy.
But man, I love me some little visual gags, because that stuff is always my favorite. But they get home, and this house is like the weirdest house in any movie.
It's so weird.
It straight up just looks like grandma vomited all over the place.
It's like a creepy dollhouse.
Yeah, it's like an overblown dollhouse filled with expensive items.
Right.
Like expensive family heirlooms. Like everyone's grandma's house combined is this house.
I don't even think my grandma would have ever used that wallpaper.
I said everyone's.
Yeah,
so
that wallpaper was very interesting. I'm like, okay.
And like, and my favorite part is like Andy's room is filled with like toys from like the 1950s, and he's like, wow.
Dude, I'd be so excited in that room. There were fucking trains in there.
That's true. There were trains. He had a train. He had a traffic light. Andy's sweater game in this movie
amazing.
Is so great. He got one that got like a traffic light and cars, and it's like fully knit. I want one.
I do too. I'd wear that.
You know, actually, fun fact: I did go as Andy Barclay for Halloween one year. Like overgrown Andy Barclay.
Oh god!
I carried the good guy around and just wore. I tried to look like him when he was in Chicago, like in the first movie, wandering around with the like big beanie and the big red and gray coat.
That's funny.
Oh, but it was yeah, something. That house, it just looks uncomfortable to like live in.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, different strokes for different folks. But the first oof of this foster family is not getting rid of the good guy doll in their house when they take home the kid who has a deathly fear of good guy dolls.
Right. That I also like the other part of this that I like Joanne because she's like, oh my gosh, Andy, I'm so sorry. And
I forgot that was there. My mistake.
Right. And like gets rid of it and like tries to help him move on. The dad is not Phil. That's his name, right?
Yeah.
Phil is such an ass about it.
Yeah, he's like, it's only a doll. God.
Like, are you being so for real? That is a child. A child can be scared of a doll. I feel like that's a very appropriate thing.
Your time would have been a lot easier if they did just throw away the doll.
I know, right?
Like, why'd they feel the need to still just keep it around? I guess, it was how much? Like $100? Like, retail?
Right, but like
so maybe.
No one's going to use that doll and it's freaking out this kid.
Like what Sahara just throwing it away because now it's a plot device. That's why. But
yeah, well, and we missed too. This is also when we get introduced to Kyle.
Oh yeah, Kyle is every '90s big sister.
I love her.
Put together.
I love her so much.
Yeah, she's smoking a cigarette. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and Joanne comes in and instead of like yelling at her, really goes, Kyle, come on. Phil's going to kill you if he sees that. That's how I know it is so set up that she is good cop and Phil is bad cop.
Yeah.
Because
even the picture on the mantle later of Phil, he looks scary.
Like she's the one who's like, hey, don't do that. It's not good for you or it's going to get you in trouble. But he's the one who actually would come in and take the fucking cigarettes and whoop her ass.
Yeah. But as Andy's I guess getting settled, we cut back to the toy executive, little like toy, I call him the toy intern. He's because he just follows around the CEO like, well, yes sir, like throughout the first part of the movie. And
it's just his little bitch. It's all right.
We were theorizing because he's taken Chucky to his car. And he just throws him in the back, and there's like a million toys back there. Like, he can't fit him in the trunk because there's too many toys in the trunk. And then he has to throw him on top of this giant pile of toys in the back seat. And we were saying it's like, okay, he probably has to take defective toys home all the time.
But he doesn't have anything to do with them. But he can't like donate them or anything because they're defective toys. They can't get out. So I feel like he just like leaves them in his car because he doesn't have any other thing to do with them.
Like throw them away?
Right, but then if he throws them away, because if they're defective toys, they might be toys that haven't been released yet.
Fair.
So he can't just throw them away because what if someone finds it?
Then he's in trouble.
Yeah, so he's got to keep them in the backseat. He's just got to keep them in his car.
I still think it's funny to think that his house is already so overflowed with them that now he's onto the car because you'd think he could just like put them in the basement or something.
He is so this executive's little bitch.
He is. He looks just like such a like little. He like kind of looks. This is mean because this I guess is attacking the actor, but
I love this actor.
He does a great job. He just like has that ratty kind of like sniveling appearance.
He always plays an asshole. I love this guy. He's actually from the few interviews I've seen with him. He's a great dude. Let me look his name up.
Let's say, is he in things you've seen?
Yeah. So he was in. I don't know if any of you are big Disney fans, but if you've watched Disney's Once Upon a Time, he played. You would love it. He plays Hades, a live-action version of Disney's Hades.
That's interesting.
He's so good at it. He's so good at it. Can't you see it?
Kind of. I've only ever seen him as this, so I'm like.
I'm looking at it. He also is in Grey's Anatomy as Karasik. He's a asshole neurosurgeon.
We should probably figure out his name.
I'm doing that right now. I'm trying to talk and type. It's really hard. My brain is full of mucus. Okay, my whole head is. It's hard to do two things at once.
I'm sorry. I'll stall for time while you keep looking. But yeah, so he's driving around and he's gonna go celebrate his 2-week anniversary with his girlfriend. And she's like calling, like, did you remember to get the vodka? Like, it's who celebrates a 2-week anniversary like at all, let alone like with vodka.
Greg Germain.
Greg Germain.
Germain, something like that. Oh shit, I forgot he was in Ally McBeal too. Damn. Grey's Anatomy.
This man was in stuff. I wasn't ready for
Good
this.
Fight, Station 19, just because Grey's Anatomy. He was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine too. Look at that. He was in 4 episodes of Law and Order. Dun dun.
Dun dun.
How to Get Away with Murder. Blue Bloods. Does a lot of TV. Oh, I forgot he was in NCIS too. He was. I love this guy.
He's working.
No, dude, I love this guy. I think he's great. He always plays a little asshole, and he is so good at it.
Well, he doesn't get to play one for very much longer.
I know, it's so upsetting.
Because we get this just comedy gold of Chucky popping out of the back seat and putting a water gun to his head. Well, he doesn't know it's a water
He was
gun.
in Clear and Present Danger?
And I just remember for the first bunch of times I watched this movie, I was under the impression that he saw Chucky and knew it was the doll.
No.
I know now that's not true, but it's still funnier to think that he just didn't really have any reaction to like the doll being alive. He's just like, well, oh, hey, okay, now don't shoot. Like, but also I kind of skipped over this. This is the first instance. I just think saying this out loud really illustrates something. The first instance of Chucky being, up and moving and talking in this movie is him using a car phone. And I think that's so
cool.
good.
I forgot about mentioning the car phone. I love a good technology reference, and that car phone really is.
They really thought the car phone was going to be the end all be all. Oh God. That is quite the CG hair he has going on.
Once Upon a Time had terrible effects, but he was so great as Hades.
No, I can see it now that I've seen a picture. But yeah, so yeah, Chucky uses a car phone to call this. He finds Andy Barclay's file, which is just in this guy's car. But he finds the foster home he's at, and he's like, I'm trying to reach Andy Barclay. This is his Uncle Charles. And I'm like, you think Grace Poole, is her name, would be like, Andy has family and you are just now calling? Like,
right? Or like, Uncle Charles?
You think she'd have to look into that before giving any information.
Right, or think it was a prank.
Yeah, or something. Like,
because like if someone called, I'm not even saying it today. Like if someone called me and a friend I knew, or like something, and a friend I knew was thought that someone named Charles was possessing a fucking doll or something, and someone called my phone and said they were Charles, I'd be like, this isn't a funny prank. You're a bad person.
And hang up.
Because like you'd think with all this stuff being in the tabloids and stuff, like
people would like figure it out.
Yeah, like prank call and shit.
Also,
they had
like,
it figured out.
Is this just a thing like that? Is this just a lost art? But Chucky being able to guide him there to Andy's new house, like, do people just know their area a lot better back then?
I think so.
Or is it just a convenience thing in movies that makes me think that?
No, I think that people did used to know how to get places a lot easier.
Like, just knew how road signs worked and how addresses like were worked, and like,
right, and like where streets were like near where they lived. I think people just knew that better when they didn't have the convenience of like looking things up on Google Maps.
Because like that's always something that I always think about in movies is like, I mean, obviously, like sometimes in like if you watch a road trip movie, they have the big map out,
Right.
at least. But
where's the road trip movie with the map quest? That's what I'm wondering.
Exactly.
The printed out map quest directions.
I that just brings me back to old like trips to Florida and having just paper directions just printed out in the front seat.
Right.
And like whoever's in the passenger has to like keep track of the mile markers.
Right.
But Yeah, so Chucky shoots him with the water gun, and he thinks all's good, but yeah, unfortunately, Chucky wouldn't just walk away and let him live.
Stay close, stranger. The room awaits you after these messages.
He suffocates him with a plastic bag, of course. And Hades is gone.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate.
But see, now Chucky's in the house. And I love this shot, this like the turnaround shot while she's singing, while Joanne's singing a song to Andy to help him go to sleep. To Chucky just standing at the bottom of the stairs. That's like, for me, that's like my favorite shot in the franchise. I don't know why, it just is.
Huh.
But we get the Tommy jump scare. Tommy jump scares Chucky. And then like the thing that I love about this movie is Chucky just be doing stuff. He makes the effort to kill Tommy, the just regular good guy doll.
Right.
Like actually kill him by smashing his face with this family heirloom statue.
Which why?
For reasons. But then takes it a step further. Instead of just like dumping him in the trash can or something, makes the effort to bury him a grave with a toy shovel.
Right.
I just love stuff like that. Like, I love toy humor in these movies. There's like, it's a lost art. There's not a lot of it like after this movie, honestly. Like, just the incessant use of toys as weapons by Chucky is like something that is like a lost art form. But so yeah, now Chucky can take Tommy's place and he can really, being all cute and shit, pretend to forget his name. Because as like, so Kyle and Andy, they both get punished for the broken statue.
Yeah, that Chucky broke.
And in the midst of this, here's a list of James's things he wouldn't do, and that's hand a cigarette to a child.
Yeah,
because Kyle's just like, hold this for a second, and especially back then, a kid's just gonna be like, I wonder, like,
right.
And he immediately starts coughing his lungs out. So yeah, that happened. But the important bit from this is eventually Andy goes upstairs and overhears Phil being Phil and saying like, that damn doll thing, if he doesn't get over that, we're in big trouble. So he's like, okay, I'm going to carry around the doll. And I just love this scene. He just goes up to what he thinks is Tommy. Yeah. And he goes, I hate you. And then Chucky just forgets his name. He goes, hi, I'm Tommy. And I'm your friend to the end. Heidi ho. And Andy's just a smart little boy. He checks the batteries.
Yeah. And he is suspicious of that too. Like, he's like, that's a weird pause. He's like,
Then he sees the batteries and he kind of shrugs it off.
It's like, all right, it's not Chucky. I'm fine. There's batteries in there.
But you gotta wonder what was going through Chucky's mind when, like, the first time he actually sees Andy in the house. Like, it's just him walking up and going, I hate you. But it just makes a point to walk by and like just always hold the doll, like, because he's trying his hardest to like fit in. Because I think he really especially likes Joanne.
Yeah.
And he just wants to try to live a normal life.
Well, Joanne says in that little scene too, like, they're kind of arguing, and she says like, well, we can't just like send him back. And I like him. She's like, that's a good kid right there. He's a sweetheart.
Joanne has such a weird accent.
She's so a British person trying to be.
Yeah. At that point, just be British.
It's like, the way she says Andy. She says
Andy.
Andy. It's like that's not how.
I believe she was in in an American Werewolf in London, actually.
I'm looking her up right now. She's gotta be.
She is British. But unfortunately for Andy,
Yeah.
that very night he wakes up tied to the bed, and Chucky, you need to stop it with your really sus behaviors, because you tied and gagged a child to a bed.
Oh
That's
my god,
Chucky,
that's so
stop
weird.
it. Just stop. Also, part of my frustrations, and the only things I'm frustrated in this movie, is there's a lot of plot contrivances going on.
Yeah.
Like, Chucky is wasting so much time.
Yeah, he
like,
so is.
He not only, like, he waits long enough for Andy to wake up, and then he starts monologuing. Like, instead of just like, if he just immediately started doing the spell,
Yeah, it would have all been over.
yeah, but no, he has to be all like, I got a game sport. It's called Hide the Soul. You're it. Like,
that's so funny.
And also, like, he stops because Kyle starts walking in. And, you know, maybe easier said than done, but why didn't he just kill Kyle?
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like Chucky to keep he doesn't keep a low profile for the rest of this movie.
Yeah, but she starts, like, coming into his window, and he's just like, shit, it's over. Next time, buddy, next time you're alone, you're mine, you know. That line for some reason scared me as a kid. I was like, oh god, next time you're alone. Oh god,
she's
what if
in the Avengers movie?
She is?
She is.
Well, what's her name?
World Security Council.
Couldn't recall what that is.
Could not recall at all. Yeah.
Probably just in, like, some random, like, meeting scene or something.
Doctor Who. Why is everybody and their mother in Doctor Who? Just saying. Like, when I look through, half the time we're looking at the IMDb for these movies, and I'm looking through, like, a actor or actress. I'm like, oh, I like this person, and somewhere in there, especially if they're British, in their, like, history is Doctor Who.
I think it's the rite of passage.
Must be.
As a British actor.
It's a BBC thing.
But for real, bird.
Burb.
Sorry, there's a bird in the window.
We have ADHD, could you tell?
But so, you know, Andy just kind of goes to school the next morning. Phil throws Chucky down the stairs, which I thought was really fun. Earlier that night. And I'm not sure if the nosebleed is supposed to be an indication of, like, this movie's version of, like, an indication that he's human again, or if he straight up broke his nose going down the stairs. I like to think he just broke his nose getting thrown down the stairs.
Right.
But, you know, he has one of the few Brad Dourif lines is very awkwardly delivered. He's just like, no, I'm turning human again. Like,
I did notice in this movie, I felt more of there isn't someone there speaking right now. They didn't get the pauses right, I think, in between dialogue some of the places. I could tell it was added in afterwards. Like,
and I think that's a benefit that some of the later movies have is later they are able to just have the animatronic sync itself to Brad Dourif's dialogue.
Well, I don't even know that it was that, because it wasn't that I could see the doll's, like, mouth moving and it didn't match with the words. It was just like the dialogue pauses were weird. I feel like they just didn't, like, and I didn't notice that in the first one, and it's only a couple scenes in this one, so I think it's an editing issue where they just didn't get it quite right.
Yeah. But so, yeah, Andy's going to school the next morning.
Yeah.
And there's this kid on the bus, like, all the kids on the bus are being rowdy, you know, but there's this one kid who just like literally gets up out of his seat just to push Andy and then sit back down with
This
his like
kid is such a little asshole.
yeah, and like Andy didn't do anything.
Right.
And then later this kid just thwomps Andy on the back of the head.
Yeah.
And then Andy has the greatest one-liner that has ever existed.
So
he turns
good.
around and he goes, "Get lost, microchip." Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Was that a phrase in the early 90s,
I
calling
doubt
someone a microchip?
Or is it microchimp?
No, the subtitles said microchip.
Oh, well, I don't know.
And that wouldn't even make sense either.
I don't know. I feel like micro monkey makes more sense, you know?
Yeah.
I also want to note with the bus ride thing. Is this like an late 80s, early 90s thing? Did the back of the bus used to be the bad seat? Because when I was in school, that's where the 5th graders sat, and that's where the 8th graders sat. Like, you earned your spot in the back of the bus.
that was how it used to work.
Back of the bus was the place you wanted to sit.
But maybe the back of the butt. That's the, you know, I was theorizing that maybe the back of it's like a generational thing.
I don't know. We got to put it out there.
Anyone who grew up in the early 90s, late 80s, let me know.
Yeah, well, let us know at all, like where the good part of the bus to sit was, because it was always the back of the bus when I was in school.
Same. Maybe it's regional. What if in some parts of the U.S. it's still cool to sit in the front?
And I noticed they had 2 full back seats. The one seat in the back wasn't a half seat.
I didn't think about that.
Which is weird.
Everyone knew the half seat was the best.
Right.
And also the newer buses that had the green seat covers were always the best.
Yeah. Yeah. Not the brown ones that have all the tears in them and shit.
No, gross.
Yeah.
But we meet Miss Kettlewell.
Yeah.
And I forget this lady's name, the actress. She plays this role in every single movie.
She's so mean.
She's always just this overly smiley, like neighbor type or teacher that is also like really, really mean, but with a smile.
Beth Grant.
I know her most from Donnie Darko, where she plays essentially the same character.
Yeah.
But you know, Chucky's, you know, a little prankster, and while Andy's out playing by himself at recess, tossing a ball at a fence, he's changing out Andy's homework by 1, writing "fuck you, bitch" on it, and 2, coloring outside the lines all in one color.
Yeah,
That's the worst
rude.
part. So, you know, Miss Kettlewell, in a very level-headed manner,
Nope.
decides to scream at Andy and lock him in the classroom.
Lawsuit.
Like, lock.
Lawsuit.
Like, she straight up locks it with an old-fashioned key and leaves him there.
You can't do that.
And thankfully, she threw and locked Chucky in the closet because Chucky was in the cupboard. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, he's locked in the closet now.
And you know, he starts screaming obscenities essentially in the closet, telling Andy to let him out.
Yeah.
Which why Chucky would think Andy would let him out. Maybe that's why he approached him all nice at first, because he starts off just like, "Come on, Andy, get me out of here. I won't kill anyone else." And it just quickly shifts to, "Now open the goddamn door."
Yeah.
Like, it starts like shaking it. And Andy, you know, he's smart. He runs out the window. At least he had that option if there was a fire,
Right.
you know. But Miss Kettlewell comes back and she's like, "Andy, is that you? Get out of there. No toys." And my lady in Christ, you already, like, you locked that door. I get your first assumption wouldn't be that there's someone else in the closet,
Right.
but there's no way Andy got into the toy closet.
Well, and then she like just tries to open it without unlocking it. I'm like, I literally saw you lock this closet.
It's like, do you think Andy went into the closet and locked himself in there
Or like pick
with
the
a
lock
door
or
that
something?
clearly, from what we've seen, is only lockable with a key?
Yeah, it's weird.
Granted, like I said, in the moment, you're not going to be thinking that there's, let alone a killer doll in there,
Right.
even just another person in there. But still, but then we get another great little Chucky killing people with obscure weapons moment, because he first stabs her with a basketball air pump.
And then pumps it, and it's like a super cannon rocket air pump, apparently. She goes fucking flying.
And then we get probably the most famous kill in this series, and that is Chucky beating her to death with a yardstick.
Yeah, that's it's so cool because it zooms all the way out into the playground, and you can still see the yardstick.
Faintly. You can still faintly through the window see the yardstick going like
So great.
And this is where I have to bring up a thing that I guess the timeline can excuse. Andy gets home and it's just like his teacher called. He had detention. Her dying is never brought up.
Nope.
Or there's no like consequence or like, Chucky did it moment.
Nope.
She's just kind of forgotten.
Yep.
Like I said, the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, with the timeline, I guess.
The rest of this happens in the same night.
Exactly. So I guess with the timeline that maybe it's even possible she wasn't even discovered yet.
Yeah.
Like, janitors can be lazy.
Yeah.
Maybe a janitor hadn't checked in there yet.
Right.
But it is always something that's always confused me. It's like, it's just kind of never brought up again. But.
Or maybe they did catch it, but like all this other stuff's going on that night, so there was no way that family was gonna find out about it.
But like Ashton said, like we're probably about 2/3 through the movie, and the rest of the movie all is the ending is starting now.
Yeah, it
essentially
is breakneck for the rest of this, I feel like. Because
what we get next is Andy puts his big brave boy pants on, and he's just like, I'm gonna go kill Chucky myself.
Yeah.
Because yes, Chucky was at the bottom of the stairs magically. By the time Andy got home. How he beat Andy home, not sure. He probably hitched a ride.
Yeah.
Like he did earlier. Because that's the thing, you see his legs dangling on the school bus.
Yeah. I bet Andy walked home, so he probably did hitch a ride or something.
Probably. But like the way the music is in this little bit here, I'm like, am I supposed to think these are Chucky's hands going through the drawers?
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Like, just because of the way the music set up, but like you can clearly see like Andy's sweater.
Andy, yeah.
Andy passes up on the knives because he picks what I think is psychologically perfectly like what a kid would pick, and that's the turkey carver.
Yeah.
Like something like he's like, oh yeah, mini chainsaw, you know, basically. But he just goes down to the basement, just starts poking things with it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he doesn't really get very far. Because Chucky just tackles him. There's actually a lot of this scene kind of milks the suspense. He's looking around that basement for a while.
Yeah.
But I love that when it's cutting in between the struggle of Andy and Chucky like screaming and like the turkey carver going like, and then it just cuts to Phil and Joanne upstairs, and Phil's just like, "Did you hear something?" And just cuts back to like, but long story short, another point to Andy looking like a psycho because Phil comes down and just sees Andy down there with a turkey carver doing God knows what.
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, Chucky's done playing coy. He decides to trip Phil with like a fire poker.
Yeah.
And he just hang it.
God.
Phil's just hanging upside down, and Chucky, just absolute legend, just says, "How's it hanging, Phil?" And then drops him on his head. And then, unfortunately, that was a straw that broke the camel's back for Joanne, because now she's full. This child is evil, essentially. Like, get him out of here. But so Andy is unfortunately he is sent back to the foster house.
Yeah.
Or the whatever you'd call it.
Uh-huh.
And Kyle is kind of just left with Joanne. And she's just goes out and starts swinging, and she's kicking up dirt, and is that a shoe? Why is there a shoe under the swing set? Oh no, it's Tommy. It's Tommy's doll corpse.
Yep.
And you got to wonder what's going through her brain right now, because she's probably just thinking, no fucking way. Like,
absolutely. That's what she's like, no fucking way. This kid is right about the fucking doll.
I think she starts to suspect when like Andy just very earnestly turns around and is like, he's still in the house, Kyle.
Yeah.
Make sure he doesn't get you too. Like, but
yeah.
Unfortunately, he didn't say Joanne didn't get the message, because Chucky strangles her with a jump rope off screen. Rip. I always feel really bad for Joanne.
Yeah.
Because like she was very understandably angry, and I think her kind of attitude toward Andy was, like, at least from her point of view, justified.
Oh yeah.
So I don't really hold it against her.
Absolutely not.
But then we get a nice sequence with my favorite version of the Chucky animatronic, and that is the kicking and screaming Chucky. I love whenever they use this one, where it's just like his legs are just continuously kicking like a baby.
Yeah.
But so he takes Kyle hostage and forces him to drive to Andy. And this whole like car sequence is just like gold.
Oh, it's so funny. This is where though that's where I caught that. That's where I got the like kind of ick. It was between him and Kyle there. There's a little bit too long of a pause in between each line where you can really tell he was sitting in a studio saying each of those lines individually, because they do not connect.
Yeah.
And the intonation doesn't feel like someone having a conversation.
Well, that's what I was saying, is that the benefit is in later movies they have Brad Dourif's voice playing with the doll, so they can respond accordingly.
I thought you were saying that
the lip movement is a added benefit, like it's always going to be in sync, but the main thing is like so they can actually act with what Brad already gave.
Well, yeah, but even in Brad's performance though, you can tell he either didn't have good enough direction or he wasn't told that these lines were going to be said together, because it feels like a bunch of little one-liners that got strung together instead of like sentences.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is. I think it is most noticeable whenever he's talking to Kyle specifically.
Well, it's in this car,
Yeah.
I feel like, specifically. Like, it's just the maybe it's the way it's shot, or they just didn't really know what they were gonna have Chucky say, and maybe he was kind of sick that day, and so he didn't give his best work. But it feels like it just doesn't feel complete. that part just didn't feel complete, and I just kind of shrugged it off. I mean, it's not like that big a deal, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But kind of some hijinks ensue. They get pulled over, which I love. This scene is like, oh, it's one of those good guys, isn't it? What's your name, buddy? He just turns his head and goes, Chucky. The cops are like, oh, that's incredible.
It's so cool.
But eventually, after some car crashing and some dumb decisions, like getting out of the car when you finally got Chucky out of the car,
just drive away.
Just drive away.
Why did you not just drive away?
She gets recaptured and they go to the like foster home. I don't know what it's actually called. But like a halfway house. Well, that's prison.
I don't know what it's called.
Something like that.
An orphanage?
Yeah.
Wait,
I guess
fuck.
that's a word.
I guess that's what it is.
They never call it that. They call it like the children's home, basically.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. That's what they call it.
It's an orphanage.
It's an orphanage. And the Chucky pulls the fire alarm. And unfortunately for Grace Poole, she's about to be subject to a magic trick, and that's Chucky coming to life and stabbing her in the chest.
Ugh.
And then she lands on the copy machine and they're just making copies of her face. Like,
yeah,
it's really darkly funny.
Yeah.
But so now Chucky's switched his hostage to Andy, which just means he's almost to his goal.
Yay.
And this is where I say that, Chucky wastes so much time because he's about to start doing the chant in the back of this like news truck that they hitch a ride on. But because Kyle comes up behind and starts honking a horn, he still just doesn't give it a shot. He just gives her the finger and he's like, damn. There's a lot of things like that in this movie. But I'm not really one to be that bothered by contrivances, but it's just like there's so many in this movie.
Yeah, you could definitely notice it for sure.
Because the chant doesn't take that long. It takes like 30 seconds. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's fine because then we get to go to the best setting for the climax of a Chucky movie, or honestly most horror movies ever, and that's the Good Guy Doll Factory. Like, this set is massive, and I'm surprised. Like, I'm surprised with the scale they were able to get for like a movie like this, because they fully just have this factory filled like to the roof with Good Guy doll boxes. Granted, not with actual Good Guy dolls in them. It has pictures of Good Guy dolls on them.
Yeah.
But still. And Chucky finds a good like spot in this maze of boxes, and I love the "we're home." It just hits him on the back of the head. But Chucky, he does his chant. He's gonna finally get out of that body, and it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like you shouldn't have been dicking around for half of the movie,
right?
Chucky. Like, he's like, "Do you know what you've done?" And it's like, what do you mean what he's done? Like,
you're the idiot here.
You had so many opportunities, my guy.
My dude.
But thankfully, Kyle dumps a bunch of boxes on Chucky and saves us. Then we just basically get a little game of cat and mouse throughout the whole factory.
Yeah.
One of the most metal scenes of all time is they close a gate on Chucky's hand and he just rips his own hand off to get out.
That's awesome.
And then he not only does that, he also takes the handle off of his knife and just stabs his stump into the where the handle should be.
Gives him a knife. He gives himself a knife hand.
And that is the most metal shit I've ever seen.
So fucking cool.
Brad Dourif really sells the excruciating pain that Chucky goes through in these movies.
It's a cringe away kind of moment.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's a fake doll, it's the way he sells the pain there.
Exactly. Like, even though it's just a goofy good guy doll with flesh bits in him, when he does that, when he sticks his stump like onto the knife, like it does make you go, ugh! Like, ah.
Stay close, stranger. The room awaits you after these messages.
Like, that's an ouchie. But honestly, the knife hand doesn't do him much good. He manages to like slap a mechanical worker with it, and he falls and gets some eyeballs stuck into some fake plastic eyeballs stuck into his eyes.
Yeah.
Which is quite the visual.
And you know they're gonna do that from the beginning of the movie when they use the eyeball machine.
Oh yeah, you're like, someone's getting eyeballs in their eyeballs.
Yeah, you're like, oh fuck, someone's getting eyeballed.
But honestly, you know, to kind of just go through the Terminator ass death that he has in this movie, Chucky proceeds to be stapled in the balls hundreds of times. Has a bunch of good guy limbs shoved into every orifice of his lower body. And when he's in half and scooting around on one of those goddamn scooters we used in gym class, he then has molten plastic poured all over him.
It is
and
very
he's
Terminator.
And he's still, you know, not dead. Because he springs back and he has an air hose shoved in his mouth and his head explodes. And now he's dead.
There you go.
For now.
Ooh.
And that's Child's Play 2.
Yay.
Yeah, we get a very a very like 90s Goosebumps ending.
Yeah.
Like what did they say? Oh man.
It's so cheesy. I can't remember.
I can't remember it. It's like a what do we do now? And then I think she says, Andy, I have no idea.
Yeah, something like
Roll
that.
credits.
Yeah.
But that's Child's Play 2. You know, in a nice little abridged kind of way. Very, very, very fun movie. Very
so fun.
Has a lot of qualities to like. A lot of plot contrivances, I won't lie, but also you're watching a killer doll movie. I think a little contrivance is allowed to be there, because you're already suspending your disbelief enough. So, yeah, one of my favorites, one of my go-tos in the Halloween season, and also very nostalgic. I watched a lot of this movie on 2006 YouTube before I ever watched the movie. Any thoughts? Closing thoughts?
It's a great movie. I wish I felt better today so I could bring it the energy it kind of deserved, but
I tried my best to keep it going.
that's why you got a whole bunch of James today, because I am on the struggle bus, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of rambling, but you did well. You did fine.
Thank you.
But you know, if you want to join us for the rest of Chucky month and talk about the movies as we talk about them, you can go over to discord.gg/Jumperscape.
Yay.
We have our very own spooky general chat in there where we can talk about all things spooky. And we also have a Q&A channel for the segment we're about to do right now. Okay, Don Fox, he asks, hair for teeth or teeth for hair? I answered this on the library already, but I'll reiterate.
Hair, teeth, hair. Teeth for hair, I guess.
I picked teeth for hair as well.
It would not like the hair in my mouth.
Exactly. And you could not chew anything.
Yeah.
You know, like you'd constantly be like, at least with teeth for hair, you can just wear a hat.
Yeah.
You know, hide your hideous head.
Like, yeah, for real.
Your very unsettling body horror head.
Right.
But you know, yeah. My answer has not changed. What the fuck is a kilometer?
Um,
It's a unit of measurement
measurement?
in the metric system.
Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny. Johnny Gimpy Arm. What is the best practical effect you've seen in a horror movie?
So far in the ones we've watched, it's got to be between the. Of course, it's gonna go to Nightmare. It's got to be between Goop Stairs and the blood bed throw up hole.
You know, I'm going to go a little outside the box.
Oh.
I still think some of the best practical effects, especially for their time, are the full-scale animatronic dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I have to pick out something, you know, because I feel like it's only makes sense. If I have to pick out something that was actually in a horror movie. Sorry, I did his thing on accident. I would have to probably, you know, I'm going to stay in-house. No, I'm not. Because I was going to say, honestly, like, as, like, I always take into account the times. The animatronics in these films is honestly really well done.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, like, and just because I know how much work goes behind it, because there's literally like 10 to 12 people controlling Chucky at any given time, all in coordination. You have one guy like for each arm, and like one guy for the eyebrows, one guy for the mouth.
Right.
Like, just the level of coordination that probably takes is really like impressive to me. So, you know, yeah, I'll go with that.
All right.
That was from Ethan of the Council of Patreon names, by the way. Mr. McCheese wants to know who would win the UNSC from Halo or Jason. Well, here's the thing. Jason is one guy. Yes, he technically can't die, but I don't think Jason could withstand a Mac round from from orbit.
I don't have opinion here.
There you have it. And then Orange EST Moy asks, have you guys watched Lights Out, that one horror movie? If so, was I the only one that kept seeing shadows of that lady in my room for the next month? I saw the short film that obviously was like a kickstart for that movie, and this is still one of the scariest short films I've ever seen.
Oh, I have seen that short film.
Yeah. They made a whole movie on it.
Oh God.
And no, yeah, that movie scared the shit out of me when I saw it back in the day. I have not rewatched it. I saw it in theaters, but I've not rewatched it since. So honestly, I might give it another watch. Maybe on Room 237.
Whoa.
But that's all the questions that we can take for today. If you'd like to support us, you can, of course, go to patreon.com/Jumperscape. You can also just support us in little spurts if you like on ko-fi.com/Jumperscape. I'm bad at segueing to Patreon, so I'm just going to start reading. We got Lactating Snake Nipples the Second. Bro, I totally forgot to change my name last week, so PogChamp. Thanks, Kyle. Jacob Adlam, Scion Esports, shout out. It's Default 456, Dark Salad 42. It's Dick Hammerbush. Austin holds Master Chief's yodeling pickle. Connor, I cast testicular contortion. Don Crowbar Shrub, Mando, Margarita Ortega, Mr. Shifter, James Zealot, Seth Rutherford, Shane's #1 Bears fan, Spartan Dave, Captain Varco, UNSC Walk Softly, Cool Blazer, H Ghost, Last Dawn Reactions, Mo Maggot Y'all, and Spartan Habuko G156, Vermin, Addy Criminal, Austin embraces the sheer power of Master Chief's yodeling pickle. Oh boy, I don't remember this yesterday. Oh no, guys, I'm sorry. If you're listening to this on Friday, we recorded on Sunday. I think you guys missed your mark. Batman using explosive gel on Shane's garage door. Big Feet the Pondered. Connor Clark. Dapper Dame. Dylan, Lactating Gator. Lactating Milk MT. Linda Marie. Only Diablo. Sergeant Forge's Chipotle Shotgun. The Lactation of Mercy. When I joined the Corps, we didn't have any fancy schmancy yodeling pickles. We have 2 librarios and a Connor for the whole Blood for Blood God, Skulls for Skulls Throne. Whoa. Brennan Pfeiffer, Sky Cairo, Ismazdoz Keedle D, Eliza, JX O'Malley, Keith G077, Slapnuts, Tucker, Tyson Rue 88, Werewolf Bar Mitzvah, Ossiodius T, Austin Taylor, Dangs, Damian Groth, Dr. Lactator, Dragon Eye, Ginger Boy Head Ass, Hayden Halo Reach around Cortana Hamilton, Austin Help on being stranded on Reach. What? Hold on. Austin Murphy, that's not me. Being of sound mind and body without any outside interference and free of bias, would like to publicly claim, and that's all it says. John Smith, Lactating Snake Nipples the First, Mando 2.0, 104, Shane's Pet Uwu Gravemind. Shane, this is a risky move, for it is against the will of the council, but I couldn't just let you suffer. Ginger Boy Head Ass. He's going to be so excited when we read that next week. The CPON wishes Austin a happy birthday. It's not his birthday. The Goob, X3TN, Skenji, Claude Spark, 5970, Daniel Dumpweed, Garrus Vicarian, Halo the Guy, Iskari, Kiri, Kyle Hooley, Look at What You've Done to My Bloody Shed Man, Ungoy, Sad, Sniffle, and Warm Appleswouse, of course. Thank you once again for joining us here on Room 237. Thank you for your patronage and all of your kind words and all of your really stupid names. We love you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us this evening, stranger. If you enjoyed your time with us, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/Jumperscape or join the community at discord.gg/Jumperscape. We thank you for your listenership and hope you enjoyed.